The Yoga Vasishta is a dialogue between the sage Vasishta and Rama. In this part of the Yoga Vasishta, Rama's place has been taken by Vasishta and Vasishta's place has been taken by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the original yogi, which perhaps accounts for some of the more traditional yogic elements in the Yoga Vasishta. Sometimes though Shiva is described as the Absolute, but the Absolute is never personified. The Absolute is beyond conceptualization, so it's not possible to have a conversation with the Absolute. So bearing that in mind, let's proceed. The Lord said, "Thus they say that Lord Rudra is the pure, spontaneous self-experience, which is the one consciousness that dwells in all substances." They say that Lord Rudra. It's curious when these great beings from whom all wisdom is supposed to stem actually report something second-hand. Why does Shiva just not say, "Thus Lord Rudra is the pure spontaneous self-experience"? I think there's probably quite a lot we could speculate about that. But the fact is, it's simply saying that Lord Rudra is the pure spontaneous self-experience. And it's the first time that Rudra has been mentioned in this relation, in this connection. It's usually Brahman. Rudra is a very ancient god, and worship of Rudra was assimilated into worship of Shiva. But the word Rudra is also a synonym for Prana. So there's an interesting connection there. And as I was mentioning recently, as I mentioned in the previous chapter, Prana is sometimes regarded as an analogy with consciousness, just as space is an analogy with consciousness. So here it's Rudra that is described as spontaneous self-experience. And that's what's happening. That's what the stream of experiencing is. It's spontaneous self-experience. It is the seed of all seeds. It is the essence of this world appearance. It is the greatest of actions. This stream of creativity, this stream of creation that's going on all the time is the greatest of actions. It's the miraculous stream of being. It is the cause of all causes, and it is the essence in all beings, though in fact it does not cause anything, nor is it the concept of being, and therefore cannot be conceived. It isn't a conceptual thing. And in the same way, this sounds very mysterious. It's beyond concepts. But most of our life is not lived on a conceptual level. When we listen to music, for example, we're not involved in concepts usually. I suspect most people listen to music, especially purely instrumental music rather than songs. This is a non-conceptual thing. Most of our experiencing is non-conceptual, but we don't acknowledge that. It is the awareness in all that is sentient. It knows itself as its own object. It is its own supreme object, and it is aware of infinite diversity within itself. The whole world appearance, the universe, is the self presenting itself to itself. It gets caught up in it. That's bondage. And it can free itself from it and turn directly to its own nature once again. That's liberation. It is the consciousness in all experiences, but it is pure and unconditioned. It is absolute truth, and therefore not truth as a concept. It is not limited to the definitions of truth or falsehood. It is in fact the very end terminus of the supreme truth or the primordial reality. It is pure absolute consciousness, not else. It's the very end terminus in the sense that there's nothing beyond it, because it is what is beyond everything. Yet it itself becomes coloured with desire or attraction for pleasure. It itself becomes the experiencer of pleasure, the pleasure experience, and the impurity or taint caused by it. This is the usual process. Pleasure is identified, it's experienced, and the taint is getting hooked into it and wanting more. Though it is like the sky, unconditioned and undivided, soon it becomes limited and conditioned. In this infinite consciousness there have been millions of mirages, known as world appearance, and there will also arise millions more mirages, known as world appearance. Yet nothing really has come into being independent of the infinite consciousness. Light and heat seem to come out of fire, but they are not independent of fire. It's like a television set as well. Think of the variety that is presented on a television set. And yet most of the time we're not thinking about the television set. We ignore the television set, in fact, and yet the television set is the underlying reality of everything that appears. And yet we call it watching television, don't we? Watching television. We're not watching television, we're watching what appears on the screen. And yet the truth is we are watching television. And the truth of our everyday reality is we're actually watching awareness. But we get caught up in the dramas that awareness presents. But really, we're watching awareness.